Hey you guys. So I know it's been a minute since I posted, like almost what 3 weeks, almost a month since I posted my last video. But I am back and I am better, and I will be using my laptop because I decided to actually sit down and plan what I wanted to talk to you guys about. That way I'm not just kind of going off the dome and not really knowing where I'm going with my message. I wanted to be a little more concise and clear with you guys. And I felt like in order for me to thrive in this new venture that I'm trying, I should probably start planning things out. I'm usually a girl that kind of goes on the whim of things, and I really want to switch that up. And that's tying into the video of what I wanted to talk to you guys about, which is the call of change and battling the fear to embrace said change. So, transparency. I am in the rebuilding stage of a tower moment. And this tower moment included me losing my relationship. Not that there's any bad blood, but I lost my relationship and I ended up moving back home with my family. And that whole time I felt like just a huge failure. And I'm pretty sure I talked about the feeling of being a failure in a previous video, but I've come to realize when I was, packing my things up and moving back home and stuff, that even though I am taking steps backwards physically, mentally, I am not. And so I was like, this is not a fail of me being like, a complete loser or just, things crumbling and it's end all be all. No, this is a fail forward. Honestly, this is me failing forward because it's like, yeah, okay, I went out on a whim and I decided to, embrace being in love, embrace, fully being in this committed relationship, this adult relationship, and I took in all that came with that, and I did really good. I took it all in stride, and I'm not, ashamed of anything that I've done in the relationship. I'm not ashamed of the love I gave in the relationship. It was just, I felt like I didn't have a stable enough foundation within myself to fully nurture that type of relationship. I felt like I wasn't independent enough within myself in order to sustain something that needed a stronger version of myself. And as I was like moving my things back to the home, I felt this fire burning up in me. Like, I was just telling myself, oh, you can't be mad at anybody but yourself because of the choices you made and what brought you back here. And when I was telling myself that, I wasn't angry at the situation. At first I was, okay, truthfully, at first I was, because I was like, man, you're moving back to your mom's house and you don't even know what to do and all this other stuff. But I was like, okay, calm down and actually reevaluate the situation. I'm like, you're coming back home and you're, getting away from situations that put a lot of stress on you. So you're coming back home, you don't have to figure out like rent and how are you going to pay this and that. And it's like, okay, all you have to worry about now is stacking your money. All you have to worry about now, 444 as I'm talking about this, like all you have to worry about now is like getting back to you and getting back to your creativity and getting back to yourself. Once I realized that, I was like, okay, this fire isn't technically anger. It's more so of like passion being reignited, because now I'm like, I have a fire under me. I feel like now that I'm back here, I know once I leave my mom's house again, I want to be able to leave it and not have to come back to it, because I know I'm stable enough within myself to sustain myself outside of this house. And one thing that kept playing in my head, or just signs that I've been getting lately these past few days, was birds. I've been hearing birds chirping. I've been seeing, red birds on my walks in the park. And I've seen a few bluebirds, like whether that's in my cards or just like out in nature or on TV. And I was like, there's something about birds. There's something about birds. And I thought about, okay, well, when baby birds tend to leave the nest, they leave the nest like when they feel ready. And once they feel ready, they're pushed out there, and then they have to fully trust in their wings in order to get them where they need to go. And if not, then they're, the few times I left the house, which was, college, that was the very first time I left the house. And then within this relationship, I left the house. And both times I felt like I came back. Well, I left the house 3 times actually, because within my relationship, I did ended up moving back just because, family situations came in the living situation, and I was like, okay, it's too much. I'd rather just move back to the house, do it like that. All 3 times that I came back to the house, I felt like it was like me taking flight and me being out there and me, testing my wings, but realizing, okay, maybe they weren't strong enough. And so I came back to where I felt I was safe. Each time I left after that, I felt a little bit stronger to sustain myself outside of the house. And so that's why I told myself, this time around, it's not a failure. You're really just kind of coming back to the nest because you tried it and you stayed out the house for quite a bit. It's just now you realize what's out here that you want to sustain, because you have it. You have this manifestation. You had the relationship. You had the family. You had the home. Even though those things needed to be built upon, you saw what it took. You saw like what version of yourself needed to be present in order for you to build upon these manifestations that were given to you. I really thought when I was coming back to the house that like maybe since I'm coming back to the house, maybe I need to take more steps back into other things. I've really thought about going back to working for somebody else as an esthetician, being a waxer in order to build my funds up. But then I had to ask myself, I was like, okay, you were being called to be an entrepreneur for a reason. So why are you going back to working for somebody else? Like, I understand you want to, stack your money up, save your money up, but why aren't you investing that time within yourself or within businesses that you want to start for yourself? Why are you going back? And honestly, I really thought like that move within itself was going to be tough for me, because I practically worked at most of the waxing salons here in Memphis and ended up leaving because they just weren't a good fit for me. That's when the whole idea of, okay, well, am I resisting my calling to embrace, YouTube, embrace my creativity, embrace this call of entrepreneurship in order to feel safe? And when I say safe, I mean like you're playing it safe. You're playing it small. You're taking on the role of, okay, well, I'll work up under somebody else, or, you know, I'll do this and put off my calling for just a little bit longer because it just doesn't feel right. But it's like, okay, you're not trusting the universe. When you do that, you're telling the universe, I don't trust in the plan that you put in front of me because I don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable. This is not familiar to me. And even though I'm in a space that feels familiar to me and I feel comfortable, it's bringing up all these lessons that I have within myself that is telling me that you shouldn't want to play it small anymore. You've been here before. And it's not that there's anything wrong with, you know, moving back to your mom's or your family's place. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, that's comfort. That's where you feel love. And honestly, I felt like I needed to be surrounded by my family in order for me to realize I didn't have to do it by myself. Let me put it like that. Yeah, I had to move back in with my family in order to physically see I didn't have to do this by myself. I wasn't alone. I wasn't out here alone. I didn't have to struggle. I don't have to struggle. And if you have friends or family, if you feel like you're in a tight situation and you have friends and family, but you're kind of nervous to ask them, like, hey, I need help, just remember, if these people that you call your friends or that are your family, if they truly love you, they have no problem helping you. It's when you choose to suffer in silence is when you ultimately kind of put on that, well, I'm a loser, I'm a failure hat. And you're not thinking, oh, I can move forward. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do it by yourself. You can do it by yourself, but that's the hard way. Why would you choose to make it harder for yourself when you could ask people who support you wholeheartedly for help and they can make it easier? You can make this journey to yourself easier if you opened yourself up and embraced the love that was already around you. Going back to the familiarity, it's nice to be here, but I also know within myself that I reached the ceiling. There's no more room for growth, no more room for expansion here for me. And that's why I felt like me going back and doing, you know, the jobs that I was doing before wasn't going to benefit me other than supporting me financially. This new chapter really does require me to become this new version of myself. And in order for me to close out this old cycle of myself, I had to come back to my old stomping grounds and really, I guess, come full circle in shifting my mindset and realizing that I've grown a lot, and that even though my outside might not reflect the growth that I have on the inside, it will eventually, once I start stepping into that role of being my new self. Like, I think totally different. I am not the person I was, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I actually am thinking about my future. I'm actually thinking about, starting a family of my own, businesses, investing, and that stuff wasn't in my mind 5-10 years ago. In order for me to embrace this new chapter of myself and this new version of myself, I realized I had to commit to myself. I had to commit to my calling. I had to commit to my new ideas. I had to commit to these new passions. I had to commit. And this is gonna be my first time saying this, but I come to realize I have commitment issues. Like when it comes to things that I truly want to do, it's very hard for me to commit to it because I'm the only one that can see the entire vision. I'm the only one that can execute it. Committing to that just means that, like, okay, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust the divine. You have to trust the Most High. You have to trust God to get you there. You have to trust the tools and your capability. It's been so hard for me to 100% trust myself because in the past I made decisions that burned me. You know, at the end, like those things burned me, or I surrounded myself around people that betrayed me, abandoned me, and that stuff took a toll on me. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not making the right decisions. And truthfully, I wasn't, because in the midst of me doing those things or being around those people, I was ignoring my inner voice that was telling me, these people aren't for you. This situation isn't for you. You don't need to be here, because I chose to surround myself with people and get my value and comfort from outside sources instead of with myself. That constant betraying myself in times where I should have been my biggest advocate and my biggest cheerleader just made me learn to distrust what I was saying. Like today, I kept telling myself, like, what kept popping up in my head or what kept popping up on like my feeds and stuff was like, stop procrastinating, execute your plan. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it later, I'm gonna do it later, I'm gonna do it later. But after I woke up from my nap, I was like, okay, you told yourself after you wake up from your nap, you're recording this video and you want this video up to be up by like 5:30 at the latest. So you have to get up. This small act of me setting up my camera, pressing record, and just talking to you guys is me showing myself that I can trust myself because I'm sticking to my word and I'm reliable. I'm reliable. I can rely on myself. Like I said, I had to put all my eggs in my basket for myself and be like, okay, I'm committing to myself. I'm committing to this dream. I'm committing to this call, this plan that the Most High has for me. But like I said, I have to fully trust in the Most High. You know, I have to give them room to work. I have to give them room to bestow upon me blessings that they have set for me. 21:14, as I said that. And I realized in order to do that, I had to put down my sword. Like, I'm not saying I don't have to protect myself when it comes to, you know, just everyday life and stuff. You should always want to protect yourself. Always protect yourself, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally. Protect yourself. But along with protecting myself, I was always ready for a battle. I had my sword up. I was ready for a fight because I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm basing it upon things that I came from in the past. And in the past, I should have had my sword up, and I didn't have my sword up, and I got hurt. But if I'm going to let the Most High work, if they're bringing in people or situations that's here to help me, because they're taking me out of this chaotic situation that I came from in the past, in order to fully embrace it, I have to put my sword down. Because the first sign of conflict or discomfort I feel within myself, because I get triggered because somebody said something that triggered me from the past, or somebody did something that triggered me from the past, instead of me, you know, calming myself down and taking a few deep breaths and calmly talking it out, I'm already ready to, like, you know, be harsh and block and be like, yeah, no, I'm done. And that's me rejecting what was put in front of me for me to embrace in the first place. And it's like, you're not going to get anywhere if you're always arming yourself for a fight. You can protect yourself, and you can use your discernment to let you know, like, hey, this is not for me. You just need to leave. You gave it a chance and you realize, yeah, no, I don't feel good on it within. Okay, leave it at that. But you can't go into all new situations, and just because you feel uncomfortable, because you feel unsure, that you automatically write off the entire situation. That's not fair. And that's when I had to ask myself, well, how can I put this sword down? How can I ease the discomfort that arises within so I can fully embrace this moment and see what this moment is trying to teach me? How can I learn to fully trust in the Most High? And how can I stop blocking myself from things that are coming in that were meant to bring me the abundance, the blessings that I was looking for in the first place, the fulfillment, first of all, the fulfillment. I have to choose to experience joy. I have to choose to cultivate joy. And I have to, regulate my nervous system enough to not always be on edge when I'm experiencing that joy. And I shouldn't be thinking in the back of my mind, okay, well, this could end, this can happen, and it could be all taken away from you, it could be snatched away from you. No, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Or just being present in the moment and not thinking about the past or worrying about the future. One thing I like to do in order for me to feel present is I like to fully look at things around me, and I like to be like, okay, I can hear this. If I'm outside, I can be like, okay, I can hear cars passing, I can hear, birds chirping, I can hear people talking, walking by. I like to look around. I'm like, okay, what do you see? I see, trees, I see grass, I see, puppies running. And I'll be like, okay, what do you smell? And I'm like, oh, I smell, sticking with the narrative that we're outside, I smell barbecue, or I smell the lake. Like, I smell, the, I don't know, whatever outside smells you smell outside. And I like to be like, okay, well, what do you feel? I'm like, okay, well, I can feel the grass, or I can feel the wind on my skin. I can feel the sun beaming down on my skin. I can feel, maybe if it's really hot outside, I can feel like the little sweat on my forehead. Like, I like to be present in all my senses in order to bring my mind back to the fact that, like, okay, you're not in the past anymore. You're safe. You're fine. You're okay. Calm down. And 9 times out of 10, it works. It works. And if that one time it really doesn't work and I'm like super high wired and that's because I'm overwhelmed, then it's time for me to take a break. It's time for me to get quiet. That's one thing I've noticed. When I'm very stimulated and I am just like so anxious, probably on the verge of like a whole freak out, panic attack, whatever, I just need time by myself, and I need to be sitting in silence in order to regulate myself. And sometimes that could just even be taking a nap. Like, I like to work myself to a point of exhaustion sometimes, and I'm like, I can't function like that. Not at all. I can't function like that at all. Being rooted in the present and being rooted in the faith that, the Most High, God, Spirit, universe, whatever you want to call it, is going to always have my back. They're not going to let anything happen to me. If I am following the signs, I'm following my intuition, there is nothing bad that can happen to me. And I'm not going to say like, oh, I can avoid all issues and problems. But then if that arises, I need to ask myself, okay, what is this trying to teach me? What is this trying to show me? Instead of just going off on the deep end and like freaking the fuck out, what can I learn from this? You know, being rooted in those things will keep you going and keep you in a space where you can protect your peace. And that would ultimately teach your subconscious, like, okay, well, I'm in a safe space. I'm constantly being reminded that I'm in a safe space. I'm constantly being reminded that I am protected. I'm constantly being reminded that, like, with this faith, these things that I was promised will show up in my reality. Your subconscious will reprogram itself, and then you will just start looking for the same little things. You're like, okay, well, you will start to anchor yourself in this new reality that you're trying to, you know, go towards.